Hey, and welcome to the Emlyn in the Mix podcast. Got a very special podcast for you guys today. Going to be talking about my top 10 favorite plugins for 2021. Now, there are a couple of 2021 contenders in here. You'll probably see on the screen straight away if you're watching on YouTube. This one here only released a few weeks ago now, but there are a few plugins from 2020 and 2019 which I still use in 2021, which are really fantastic, and I dare say I'm probably going to be using in 2022 as well. Bit of a different podcast for you guys today. Not going to be doing the news roundup. Thank you so much for joining me though. This is going to be fun. We're going to play some instruments. We're going to have a bit of fun. We're going to have a bit of noodling with these instruments. If you're a regular listener, thank you so much for joining me as you always do. And if you're new to the podcast, this podcast essentially, well, if you haven't worked it out already, is about music technology, music gear, studio recording gear and whatnot. And we just discuss, talk about it, have fun, play with it, review it. Sometimes we have hardware, mostly we have software, but that's what it's about, and I enjoy having you guys here. If you like supporting the Emlyn in the Mix podcast, you can continue to do so. I don't know why you're continuing, but if you are, that's fantastic. Support the podcast. Click the link below. You can shout me a coffee. I would really love that. And yeah, leave me a review if you love this podcast. I checked them all out. You know, you can do 3, 4, 5, 1 star if you felt it was that, but it's definitely a 5-star. We know it's a 5-star. Leave us a review. The link for that is in the podcast app as well. And with all of that out of the way, I think we can get stuck into this. So the first instrument we're looking at here is the Soft Synth from Cherry Audio. It's the Quadra. There is a video about this on my YouTube channel if you want to check out a little bit more in depth about what Quadra is. And we did speak about the Quadra in episode 47, season 2 of this podcast, just with a little overview of it there. But yeah, it's just one of those soft synths where the emulation is just so good. I can not tell the difference between the hardware version of this and whether it's software or hardware for that matter. Actually, the hardware version of this is very rare and very unique. Apparently there's only a few of them in the world, but you can just tell when you play this, this is a real sounding analog soft synth, or a real sounding analog synth for that matter, emulated. I'm just gonna turn my keys on down here. We're just gonna have a little play with why I love this instrument so much. Let's have a listen to it here. Now I do have my keys up here as well. Got my rolly keys here, but you can just hear how good this sounds from the get-go. That preset has like a nice bit of glide on it. It's we'll go through a few presets here and just have a listen. Yeah, so if you like arpeggiators, you like strings, you want that real analog sort of 80s warmth, the Quadra is going to deliver on every level. As we go through more presets here. So even strings, you want that retro sort of string sound as well. That preset there is definitely going to deliver on that. Yeah, the arpeggiators on this thing are just absolutely nuts. A lot of fun indeed. One thing I love about the Quadra is if you press down the velocity, you could hear the pitch was changing. So you never really get the same sort of sound even from the same sound. You can really manipulate and change it just with the, have a listen to this. Like it's almost as if it has aftertouch functionality, because I'm holding down the notes and then I'm pressing the velocity down. And you can hear it's pitching it up a semitone or a tone there. But just nice little features like that. It really brings this synth into the modern times. I don't think the original hardware version of this would have had aftertouch or a velocity sensitivity like that. So there's a bit of a slow attack one. So look, you're going to get pads, you're going to get strings, you're going to get all of that. And literally, I've just been going through C here. You got bunches of presets if you have a look here. Dark PWM bass, for example. So, you know, yeah, I mean, look, it does have a bit of a nostalgic sound, bit of that 80s, you know, analog sound, but honestly, I mean, if you wanted to, you could incorporate this in synthwave, modern pop music, no problem. It would deliver, and this is why this is one of my favorite plugins for 2021. We'll keep moving along. I know there's so much to show on that, but you can check out the video on my YouTube if you want to see more on the Quadra. Absolutely love the Quadra indeed. All right, let's get along now to our next favorite, or my next favorite plugin for 2021. And this one comes to us from Rolly. It is the Equator 2. This thing is a beast, and I'm just going to play it and you'll know why. It just has so much depth. The engine on this, the back end of this, whatever they did, just sounds phenomenal. It has the MPE technology inside, which allows for MIDI polyphonic expression. And it's got this really nice, one thing I really love about the Equator 2, it's got this really nice, in the center of the screen, you got this huge sort of display of your waveform, so you can see what's happening. Might get some presets that really show that off. We'll just go through. Gives you really good visual feedback. But it's not just about visuals, obviously it's about the sound. Here we go, here's something strings. Like, how good do those strings sound, honestly? So lush. And as it has, that particular preset there doesn't have the MP. Actually, this one here, it's blue. So we've got strings and horns. Let's see if we can get some. So you can hear I can use a bit of, I'm just using my Rolly Lumi keys at the moment. You can hear I'm pitching it a bit just with the keys. Now we can go through, we jump into our presets here. We can change it to basses. We can look at analog digi bass. Let's keep going through a few here. See what we can find. There we go, there's a nice thick bass for you. Really nice indeed. It has a plethora of sounds in here. You know, we can go to aggressive and we can go, let's just look at MPE and let's look at electric. All right, here we go. Guitar attack. Not too bad for an emulation. I mean, guitars are... Without being sampled, guitars are honestly some of the hardest things to emulate in synthesizer form. But look, if you're looking on the YouTube video here, I just love that you can see the waveform. And you can really tell how the sound's been affected. Of course, it has so much depth, this plugin. You got all your parameters. You can change the way that the MIDI polyphonic expression is being used. And you got effects. You got everything on board here. It's fantastic. We're not going to go into detail on this, but this is why this is in my top 10 plugins for 2021. Let's move along to the next one here. Next one also comes to us from Cherry Audio. It is the Mercury IV. This, again, just a hands down, unbelievable emulation of a hardware synthesizer that is actually one of the band members of the Cars, a huge band who had some very big pop singles in the 80s and 70s, I think 70s and 80s. Anyway, this is emulated off this dude's own Mercury IV. I think the hardware was called the Mercury IV. And this emulation, just have a listen. Again, strings, you're gonna get all that. Listen to that decay. So this may be my favorite for 2021. I don't know if I was going to choose favorites. I just want to give you my top 10, but just the sound on this thing is ridiculous. The team at Cherry Audio have just done wonders. So you get a general idea. I'll try and get through some... There you go, got some sound effects on there. I'm just haphazardly going through the presets, but hopefully it gives you an idea of the sort of sound range of this thing. Just, there you go. You've got some arpeggiators, of course, 80s arpeggiators. And they just sound, to be honest, they sound really good. Roll through a few more. It's just a really fun instrument. You get inspiration with this, no doubt. And their soft synths are very affordable too. They're not expensive. I think that's like a bassy. Oh, here you go. That's like, you want that Van Halen sound. Sounds beautiful. Now, one thing they added to this synth, which isn't on the hardware original, is you got this tape echo here, and you got the reverb as well. They just sound really, really quality. I'll turn them off so you can just hear. See, the effects were actually carrying that sound a long way. Put them back on. Just super warm, super nice sounding. That is the Mercury IV, and that is in my top 10 plugins for 2021. Let's move along to our next one here. And this one comes to us from Korg. Now, this is probably one of my favorite Korg instruments out of the Korg Collection Legacy update they did for Korg Collection 3. And this... the thing I love probably the most about this is the drum kits, but the actual emulation or the samples that they took from the Korg Triton is exact to the Korg Triton. Although if you're a Korg Triton user, there are some tiny nuances where I've heard Korg Triton users say, oh, it's not quite the same. This preset doesn't quite sound the same. But overall, it's 99% the same as the original Korg Triton. This is the Korg Triton Xtreme 2. This iteration came out in around, I think it was mid-noughties, so between 2004, 2007, I can't remember, somewhere in that year bracket there. But this includes the valve force, which you can turn on and off, which really warms up the sound. I've got it on kits at the moment, but if we go up to keyboards, for example, you can just have a listen, and they've sampled it meticulously. Like, it is a little bit quiet, this one, for me. I'll go through like this. And so you got really nice pianos. So you got all your beautiful grand pianos and so forth. So these hardware synthesizers were actually used a lot, and maybe still some people still use them. They're a little bit old school now, but they were used a lot for live bands just because they had a plethora of sounds. Like, you have beautiful sampled pianos, you got really nice organs, so churches and stuff could use them, and really authentic, good quality sounding instruments in here as well. Strings, of course, you got that. Let's see if we can get there you go. Strings, not the greatest of emulations. Lead synthesizers, you got those. But for me, I think the main thing that I really love on this is the drum kits. The drum kits are bloody amazing. Pumping kit. And you've even got loops on here as well. Yeah, just a lot of fun. You got this like timpani orchestral drum thing going. You got some house bass. Yeah, I just absolutely love the drum kits on here. Techno. As you can hear, high quality, top tier sounding drums. And that is why this is one of my top 10 plugins for 2021. All right, let's keep moving along and check out our next one here. And this one, although it wasn't released in 2021, this is an unbelievable hardware / software integration, which I'm going to talk about here. So this is the Rolly Studio Player. Yes, it uses the same engine as the Equator 2, but it's more of a stripped back, easier to use instrument. And I'll just show you here. I'm just going to get my Rolly Lumi keys here. I know you can't see this on the podcast, but again, if you want to hop over to the YouTube to see it, you can. So if you're looking on the screen here, this is the Rolly Lumi keys. And you can see when I play, it corresponds, the lights correspond to the notes that I'm playing. At the moment, I've got it in chord mode, although this is a monophonic sound, so we're not going to actually hear chords, but... So you can see I play one note and it corresponds exactly. And this, again, because it's using the Equator 2 engine, you've got all those sounds. Plus, you got more. This has its own expansion packs. So we can look through. I've got a bunch of expansion packs on here as well. Cinematic. I've got Cypher 2 Fundamentals. Let's have a look at the EDM attack here. And let's go into, I don't know, let's just look at this synth anthem thing. Now it's gone green. It's using, I think it's using Cypher 2. Green represents Cypher 2 engine, which is one of the F expansion synthesizers, if you don't know, which Rolly actually owns now. So yeah, you got this really cool integration with the hardware and the software. You got this visual feedback, which is really nice. If I go back to the play mode here, so I can add chords, which is really cool. So really easy to get. I guess this is where it differs from Equator 2. Although you're using the Equator 2 engine from Rolly, you've got this functionality to really add in some amazing sort of playability and expression. Here I can pop on an arpeggiator. And you can see the keys if you're watching again on the video. Sorry for the podcast listeners, but if you're watching on the video, you can see the keys are lighting up as well. And just super fun indeed. And of course you can change, you know, you can change your chords. And you can of course change the way that your arpeggiator is played as well. And you can just get, by being able to do that, you can get some really interesting results. Yes, it is amazing. And this is why this is one of my favorite soft synths, or plugins I should say, because they're not all soft synths, and it's in my top 10 plugins for 2021. All right, let's move along to what is next. What is next here? I know this is a bit of a different podcast to what you're usually used to. I just thought I'd share this with you. I thought this would be interesting. I hope it is interesting. Anyway, wow. What is this one? So next one here on my list in the top 10, and we're up to, this is number 6 now, Nexus 3. Now, Nexus 4 only just got announced a couple of weeks ago. It was in season 2, episode 47 of the Emlyn in the Mix podcast. Now, this is a little bit more of an old schooler style soft synth, I guess you could call it, in that it's actually a sample rompler. It's not actually a soft synth, but the reason why I say it's a bit more old school now is that I guess the emulations and that have gotten so good that it's almost sample romplers are becoming a little bit obsolete. But I do want to bring this one back to you guys' attention because I really feel as though this is one of the best, and correct me if I'm wrong, could be totally wrong here, but I feel this is one of the best sampler romplers, besides perhaps maybe Contact from Native Instruments. This is one of the best sampler romplers on the market. In terms of sounds too, they just have a massive library of sounds and they all sound really top tier and really quality. Let me go through a few here. We're on sequences at the moment. Just have a listen. So if you want like instant EDM, this is gonna deliver. So you do have to wait, obviously, for the samples to load. You saw there's a bit of a delay there. Or you heard there was a bit of a delay. These are all going to be sequences, so... It does have this preview function, which is really nice as well. So instead of me playing, I can just go through. Oh, yes, that is nice. There you go. I love synthwave stuff, so here we go. Now, it's not all about loops like this. Of course, you've got drums, so you can go through. That's not a kit, is it? Oh, yeah, see, this is just all kick drums by the look of it. Oh, no, it's got a mixture. So you could just make up your own loop. Here we go. This is kick drums. It's all kick drums. That's good. That pitches up as well. But pretty high quality samples, of course. You got arpeggiators, of course. They're all in here. Yeah, and on the surface, what I love about the Nexus as well is that it's just very easy. There's not much going on here. You've only got a filter mod, an amp mod, and you got reverb and delay, and that's it. There's not even a master. Oh, the master's up the top here, and then you got a main... like a master filter down the bottom left here. But you know, you got, doesn't have to just be EDM. I mean, a lot of these sounds are very EDM-esque. I guess it also depends on the sound expansions that you've actually purchased for this. I've gone for more of those electronic hard, sort of EDM, hands in the air, big room sounding expansion packs, but you don't have to do that. I mean, let's have a look at some strings. Strings aren't too bad. Yeah, and this is why I just love Nexus 3. They've actually done a very good job with this update from Nexus 2. This was a major update to Nexus 3, speeding it up. You know, the actual load times are a lot quicker than in Nexus 2, and it's just easy to navigate, get around. Very simple sort of hardware or software synth you got here. You got your arpeggiator, very easy to get into. Transgate, which is a lot of fun to play around with, get that real gated effect, and you can actually almost get an arpeggiator style effect with that transgate. Modulation effects and layers are down here as well. It's just very easy to navigate, very simple, and I like it. And I think the sounds are top tier. I know a lot of people, you know, probably looked away from this soft synth, you know, especially when it was overused in the early 2010s, but I feel it's made a good enough comeback to come into 2021 with it, especially with its updates. One thing I would like to mention on this podcast today is that Serum is not on my list. Now, Serum by Xtreme, I can never say that right, Xtreme Records is one of my favorite soft synth plugins, but the reason why I'm not showing that here on the top 10 plugins for 2021 is only because it's a little bit older now. Serum's been around for at least 7 or 8 years, and I do love it, so don't get me wrong. It's not making an appearance here, just in case you're wondering why. That is the reason. I'm trying to keep it, I guess, in the last 2 to 3 years here of plugins. All right. This next one may come as a surprise to you because this actually comes to us from Reason Studios, but I love this one. This actually did come out in 2021 as part of the Reason 12 upgrade, or was it 2020 now? It could be 2020. I've lost track of time, especially with the pandemic and lockdowns. Anyway, it is a relatively new instrument, plugin, rack instrument, whatever you want to call it, as part of Reason Studios Reason. It is the Mimic sampler, and I just love the samples on here. I love how easy it is to sort of manipulate. It's a very simple concept. Obviously, it's a sample back player, but have a listen to some of these instruments. So that's just one. We can go through. That's jazz chord slices. But you got strings. Like there's a tom. Oh, this is a drum sampler. There you go. It's got a bunch of different, I haven't seen that before. You got a bunch of kits on here. I've never used it as a drum kit thing, but I guess you can do that. And then you got like loop back, multi-flutter, like just really nice sounding samples on here. And I love the slices. You can slice, so you can put your own sort of like loop in here, and it will slice it up automatically. It's really nice. So if you like sampling, Mimic is a go-to for me. And if you've got the Studio Rack plugin, obviously you can connect it to any DAW. We're using Ableton Live here today, but the Mimic will just work inside Ableton Live, for example. And then you got just regular sounding instruments like that. See here, someone's put a loop in. So you could, if you're into that slicing and dicing, you're gonna love Mimic. All right, let's move along to our next one for 2021, top 10 plugins for Emlyn in the mix. This is, of course, Cypher 2. Cypher 2 again, this engine is included in Equator 2, but this is a no-brainer. This thing, just so rich. Whatever FXpansion did, they got it right with this instrument. It just sounds phenomenal. We're looking at basses at the moment. And the basses are super deep basses. We'll look at chords here. Let's have a look. Let's see. It's got MPE as well, the updated version. Let's see if we can... I'm not sure if the MPE is activated on this one. Oh yeah, there you go. So you can hear... Okay, so you hear the sort of going up and down. That's me. That's aftertouch. Mid polyphonic expression going on there. Sequences, you got them. They got everything on this. It's just an incredible sounding soft synth. And again, I guess because it's, you know, incorporating that engine from Equator 2, and I guess the FXpansion and Rolly must have got together and just made some magic with these soft synths. They're just so deep and so good sounding. I know that like MIDI packs are really popular at the moment, or, you know, at least they seem to be getting advertised. Those guys must be making heaps of money or something. But when you got sounds that inspire you, like these instruments I've been showing you today, I just don't see the point of purchasing MIDI packs, to be honest. I can't play, to be honest. Like, I'm not like, I mean, I can play a little bit. I'm not great, but I can play enough. I can play enough that I feel I could get inspiration without needing... I've never had those MIDI packs, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing out. If you use MIDI packs, leave a comment in the comment section below. I want to know. But yeah, these sounds, just honestly, like, what is going on here? What are these Vox ones? Let's have a look. Whoa, that had like... Is there something I don't know about the S49? This MIDI controller, which is old from Native Instruments down here, to complete... What is it? The S49. It's Mark 1, I think, but I think that's just aftertouch. I thought it was doing some MPE functionality. I don't think it can do that. Anyway, you get the idea. You know, wind. What do we got here? Oh, we didn't even change it, but here we go. Flute. Anyway, you get the idea. That is Cypher 2, just an amazing sounding instrument. It does look a little bit complex on the surface, but every parameter's here, no menu diving needed. You got a lovely visualization here. This is not for the lighthearted, obviously. When you look at this, it looks very complicated, but the presets are so good on this that it doesn't really matter. All right, the last two plugins of my top 10 plugins for 2021. This next one comes to us from IK Multimedia. I freaking love this plugin. This is the Moto Bass. And let me just get it here in the center for us. I pretty much use this on every track at the moment. The basses are so nice, so authentic. And I've been I've been making like a bit more synth wavy. I don't know, not just synth wave, a bit more funky. I'm trying to make a bit more funky music. But just because I'm incorporating bass doesn't mean it has to be funky. You could use this in any style of music. But it's awesome. You got all different models of basses up here. The Devil Bass, for example. Busman. Oh no, those Busman's not playing. Rick Bass. Studio Bass. They're all here. And then you can change the play style, so you can make it pick or slap. If you want that Seinfeld, that real slappy bass. You can even change the stroke, the muting, detach noise, so you get like some. If you want all that artifacty sort of stuff, you can do that as well. And the presets are pretty good too. 80s TV series, 90s funk. Just a really nice, authentic sounding bass with so many options. This is honestly one of my favorite, and I'm still using. I know this probably came out a little while ago actually, but I have to say it's just such a great, fantastic. Like if you go in here, look, you got bunches of presets. We can just look at Dirty Slap. Let's have a look. But if you just want that more rounded, you don't have to have that slap sounding bass. It has it all. Moto Bass by IK Multimedia. One of my favorite in the top 10 plugins for 2021. Last but not least, here we are. We've made it. And this is not so much an instrument, it's more of a beats player. And this is the XO by XLN Audio. I freaking love this plugin for inspiration. I'm not a huge beat maker, but this just makes beat making so much easier and so much fun. Like just so much fun. So at its core, it is a beat player, a rhythm composer, a beat computer, whatever you want to call it. It is one of those, but the thing I love about this the most is it collects all of your samples and puts them into this area, which is called a universe. Now, if you obviously listen to podcasts, you can't see that, but the universe essentially color codes, my kick drums, my snare drums, my hi-hats, my toms, my FX, and everything else in between, color codes and puts it into this space. And what you can do, I've got a pretty fast computer these days, so you do need quite a bit of RAM. I would recommend more than 8 gigabytes of RAM if you're using this particular plugin, because what it does is it does store your samples into the RAM when you're using it, so that it can do quick replay on those samples once you've chose those samples, of course. But let me just quickly show you how this works. Like, for example, I can just drag my mouse across this universe here and we can listen to all my kick drums. And yeah, it's quite quick, right? We can scroll across the universe over to my snares, I think. Yeah, snares here. And then over to my hi-hats. Hi-hats and cymbals, toms. That's cymbals. I don't know where my effects. Oh, toms are up here, I think. Wow, that sounds like more like percussion up there. Basically, you listen to madness right now. But what you're hearing there is my sample library in its whole. I got so many samples, right? And it's all here in XLN XO's audio captured in its universe. Now, what you can do then is you got the big computer in the back end, so we can play with that, right? So here's just a bog standard. That's a bog standard sample. Samples they use with that particular rhythm. But what's cool is I can let that rhythm play and then I can scan through different samples. So let's try that. And then let's say we found something we like, but we don't quite like the snare, for example. I can just choose a different snare by scrolling through my universe and then swapping it out. I like that one there. There you go. And then maybe this hi-hat thing. I'll change it to that. You ready? And then my kick drum. I like that one. See? Instant change. And just for inspiration and creativity and ease of use, it is just absolutely fantastic. Of course, you have plenty of other rhythms. You don't just have those sort of rhythms, you know. We can go through. You got different kinds. And XO has its own sample library that it uses, like its own drum kits that it uses as well, and it chooses the appropriate ones depending on the rhythm that you've chose. Latin, for example. So, you know, it's chose instrument samples that will be, you know, appropriate for that particular rhythm. But then I can just mess with it. Yeah, and I just love it for quick inspiration. That's why I love XO. It is unbelievable. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I know it's a little bit different, but I wanted to share with you my top 10 favorite plugins for 2021. Yes, there are some other amazing plugins which didn't make the list, but that doesn't mean that they're not amazing. They're all amazing in my opinion. I just wanted to show you these are probably my main ones that I'm using at the moment that I really love. All right, I hope it was an interesting podcast. I know it was a little bit different. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, only one last podcast to go for 2021 before we kick off a new season of Emlyn in the Mix. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast this year. If you have, you can show your support. Click the link below to shout me a coffee. Would absolutely love that. And your funds go a long way, actually. Just keep this podcast going, basically. The funds go straight back into getting this podcast into the podcast app so that you can hear it and keeping it alive. On top of that, you can leave me a review. Would love to get a review from you guys. Anything you want to do, anything you feel this podcast deserves, please leave a review. Absolutely love it. I'll read those. If you want to reach out, if you're a music software dev or you're a music hardware dev or you're just a regular listener, one of my special listeners, I should say, you can reach out to me, emlyninthemix@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. If you have some feedback or maybe you want me to check something out, definitely hit us up there, slide into the DMs. I'll definitely check that out. Enjoy reading and getting your feedback. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, peace out. Boom.